Hi everybody, welcome to October's online coffee and card class. Apologies, I'm running ever so slightly late this week, but I do hope that the wait is worth it. Not too late, and I'm going to share two videos with you this week instead of the planned one. So over the next 4 weeks, I am going to be sharing some top tips, some colouring techniques when using this Christmas Friends stamp set. And my first top tip, when you have a stamp set like this, I find looking at the grey, black and white images can be a little bit boring. So what I like to do, and it's how I start with every stamp set like this, is I will stamp every single image onto some white card, and I'll just take a little bit of time to colour in the images, and then I cut them out and I pop them on the stamp set. And I just find it really helps my inspiration, and it helps, I don't know, just bring the stamp set to life a little bit. And I've been doing this for years. So anyone who purchases any of my retired products and receives a stamp set like this, all the images will be coloured as well. So I just popped them on with a little bit of wet glue. And yeah, that's my first top tip when using this stamp set. I also find that it helps you get used to the images, gets used to sort of how you want to colour them, how you want them to look. And it's just a guide for kind of future. Plus, colouring in front of the TV is probably one of my favourite pastimes. So Christmas Friends stamp set, it is in the mini catalogue, and it is predominantly images to colour, 4 characters, the cutest little characters, and some sentiments. We have Happy Holidays, we have I'll be thinking of you this season, have a very Merry Christmas, and then we have this branch in the middle. I didn't colour the branch, but in the cards that I'm going to make with you today and over the next 4 weeks, I have used that branch, but for now it remains uncoloured. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to let you into a little secret. So when I first saw this stamp set, I thought this was a penguin. So when I was thinking, owl, I'll be thinking of you this season, why have we got an owl? Oh, it's because it's actually an owl. So hence why he's coloured in penguin colours to start with. So the first card, you have everything you need in your little packet. So you have a card base that's cut from my favourite pecan pie. I have an extra layer of pecan pie, and that's our layer that we're going to pop on the front. Then I have a strengthening piece for inside, which is our insert, which we can write all our messages on. And then you have a strip of white for the sentiment. Yours is a little bit longer than mine, but depending what sentiment you use, we're just going to trim it down. Okay. We also have a pecan pie ink pad that we're going to need to stamp in the background. And all my images are stamped with memento. Now you're probably thinking, why has she got pencils? And I've got pencils because, fun fact, pencils are my favourite colouring medium. We have 2 different sets available. This is probably 3 sets in one cup. 3 sets available. You can purchase them separately, you can purchase them together, and they are predominantly watercolouring pencils, but I'm not a huge expert at watercolouring. I really need to take some classes. So I've just used them naked without any water, so just as a regular colouring pencils. And what I love about the pencils is that you can really build up some depth in your image. Stampin' blends are probably people's go-to for colouring because they are the #1 colouring tool. They are so versatile, they are so vibrant, and they are just amazing. And I'm a huge fan of colouring stamping blends, but for me, my heart is with my pencils. So I'm going to share techniques with you using the pencils over the next 4 weeks. But if you don't have the pencils, don't panic, just use what you have, okay? All of our colouring pencils are our Stampin' Up colours. So we have Old Olive, Real Red, Early Espresso. So they're exactly the same as the blends, but they're just pencils. Okay, so you're still going to achieve the same colours if you choose to stick with the same colours as me. Or you can, of course, use your blends or pencil, sorry. So I've also grabbed just 4 pieces of card, 1 for each week, so we can stamp our images onto. So I am going, what shall I do first? Shall I colour? Shall I stamp? Let's colour first. That's what you will want to do. So starting with basic white card, if you're going to colour and you colour with colouring pencils and use water, don't use memento. Make sure you use Stays On. Stays On is the ink pad that's designed to use with water. Memento is not, but because I'm not adding any water, I'm colouring with Memento. Okay, so quite simply, I'm going to take my little owl, and not a penguin, Stacey, give him a really good dip in the ink, and I want to stamp 2 of these. Perfect. And then you'll notice that my owls are 2 different colours. Okay, so I have used a combination of, this is where I should have put these out earlier, black, grey for the one on the left, and for the one on the right, I have used a combination of early espresso, Cajun craze, and there should be a pecan pie in here. That's crushed curry, and espresso, pecan pie. There it is. Now, for the hat and the feet, I've used a combination of yellow, orange, real red, find one with a nib in it, cherry cobbler, and where's my real red? That real red there. Oh. Let's just pop them all on the desk, Stacey. It might be easier. Real red would probably help if I popped them in my cup like that. I've also pulled out crushed curry because crushed curry is great for using with yellows. So let's start with the penguin on pink. See, I'm going to call them penguins now. The owl on the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm using hardly any pressure at all. I'm going over the whole character with just the lightest grey. Okay, so you can see there's hardly any colour. Now with colouring pencils, it's all about the pressure that you use. So if you just do a little bit of pressure, you get a little mark. If you harden your pressure, you get a darker mark. And if you harden even more and go over a few times, it's even darker. So it's almost like having 2 blends in one pencil, okay? And it's just to do with the amount of pressure that you use. So on my owl, you'll notice that there is darker under his wings and around his features. So to achieve that, I'm just changing the pressure. And what I love about this image is that the shading is kind of there for you in the outline and the detail. You can't really see his tail because I've tucked his tail behind the other one. I'm just following that round. Now, when you're using black, the basic black comes in really, really handy, because if you don't push very hard, basic black is basically grey. So you're using 2 colours, but actually because you're not putting a load of pressure on it, you're getting a lighter shade. So it's just like blends. Okay. And I'm just going to do that around his face a little bit. I'm going to go back with my dark. So just keep going over the areas that you think you need to go over and just kind of make it your own. Okay, so that's my owl. First one done. I'm not overcomplicating it. We're not overthinking it. We're just getting the colour on. So for the feet, I'm going in with some yellow. So this is Daffodil Delight. And crushed curry works really, really well with Daffodil Delight. And it gives a sort of golden look. So it's really, really lovely. It's almost a browny colour. So I just love it. And I'm going over with the Daffodil Delight as well, just to blend it all in. I'm also going to do the beak. Just realised on my sample card, the beak is white. How funny that you don't notice these things until much later. And then the hat. I want the hat to have a little bit of texture in it. So I'm going to start in exactly the same way. I'm not putting any pressure on this pencil at all. Just getting the colour onto the hat, like so. And then I'm going to go in a little bit darker. I'm going to do the dark there and sort of down into the tail of the hat. Like so. And then bring in my cherry cobbler just for the outer edges to give it a little bit of definition. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing with the real red. There we go. So that is bird number 1 done. Didn't take too long at all. Now bird number 2 is a little bit more complicated because we've added some more colour to the wings and the tail. So I'm always going to start in the same way as I would do with blends. I'm starting with my lighter colour, my lightest shade, so Daffodil Delight. If you're using blends, do exactly the same. Start with your lighter shade and build up to the darker shades. So I'm colouring the feet, the beak, don't forget the beak, and the arms and a little bit of the tail in with yellow. Now I'm going to go in next with some orange, so pumpkin pie I'm using, and I want this colour to just be at the tip of that wing. So he's going to be a real golden colour out. I don't know if such a thing exists, but hey, we're going with it. And then I'm going to use crushed curry between the orange and the yellow. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing with some yellow. And that just makes it really sort of golden. Might be my phrase of the day, golden. So he doesn't look very nice at the moment. He looks a bit odd, doesn't he? But here's where the magic happens. So next I'm going to go over with my early espresso. And again, I'm being really, really gentle with this colour because early espresso is really, really dark. And what I love about this is it gives it a real base of a brown. But we're not going to use that colour again. We're going to use pecan pie. Because when you layer the two up, you get the most beautiful brown. Okay? So remembering to press darker around where you think there's going to be shadow. And then you want it to be lighter. So just ease up on your pressure. Don't want to call it a penguin. And you'll notice I turn my card in the same way that I turn my paper when I'm cutting. Now let's go in with some early espresso again. And this is going to help darken the bird a little bit more. And this is where you don't want your pencils to be like needle sharp. You want them to have a bit of an edge. Otherwise, you're going to end up with really harsh pencil lines. We don't really want that. So there's my second bird done. Again, with a hat, we're going to colour it in exactly the same way. So starting with real red, giving it a light bit of colour. And darkening it up a little bit by changing your pressure. And then adding a little bit of cherry cobbler to the corners. There we go. So there are my two birds. Let me just See if I can get my camera to. There we go. There are my two birds all done. So now I'm going to cut those out. And the good news is there is a die for that. So this stamp set coordinates with the Christmas Friends dies. And there are outline dies for each image. So let me just run that through my die machine. So here is one bird. Now my die has moved on this. I didn't use my washi tape, so I'm paying for it. So I'm just going to trim off a little bit of the white so it doesn't look so noticeable. Right, so let's make the card, shall we? Let's put all these pencils in the pot and let's do a little bit of card making. Okay, so as I mentioned, these are all the pieces that we need, and we need to do a little bit of stamping on this first layer. Okay, so I've just popped a little silicone mat under there, and I'm going to stamp with the branch, okay? And I'm stamping with Pecan Pie. So Pecan Pie is my favourite colour, just in case I haven't said that already. And what we want to do is we want to create a little bit of a forest look behind them. So although it's a branch, we're using it as a tree, okay? So I'm going to stamp across the centre of this piece of card, but I'm going to shadow stamp it. So I'm stamping it first, and then I'm stamping it again and again. And then you're going to get 3 stamps out of this one dip in the ink, okay? And what this is doing is this is creating a bit of definition, a bit of depth in our background, okay? So you have something that looks like that. So let me just lift up so you can see that. So it doesn't look like much at the moment, but when we start with building the card, it's going to transform our background. So if I turn this over and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If we were to do the card like this, the background is really, really dull. But to make those birds look even more in the forefront, we do some stamping, we add our birds, and all of a sudden the card just looks totally different. So never underestimate the value of stamping in your backgrounds, okay? So I'm going to stick this to the front of my card. And that's going in the centre. So you've got a really nice wide border around the edge, okay? And then we need to stamp the sentiment. So the sentiment I'm using is "I'll be thinking of you this season." And I'm really sorry, I should have said at the beginning, I'm using early espresso to stamp the birds, okay? Not to stamp the birds, to stamp the sentiment. So I'm going to stamp this over to the left-hand side of the banner. Try and get it straight, Stacey. Perfect. I love the way early espresso stamps. It's such a good alternative to using black, especially at Christmas. It doesn't feel like black is the colour you want to use at Christmas. So I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to trim it down so it's roughly sort of 7.5 centimetres wide. And then I'm going to put this, oh, my edge isn't quite straight on my piece of card. I'm going to stick that down. Just going to trim off that little edge there because my edge on my bit of card was not straight. better. Okay, and then we have our two little characters. So I'm going to stick both of these down using some foam pads. Just trying to escape under my cutting mat. And then I'm going to move one down ever so slightly. Like so. And aren't they just the cutest little owl penguins you've ever seen? And then all I've got left to do is to stick my inner piece inside. There we go. All done. So that is the first card complete. I hope you like it. Hope you enjoyed doing your colouring and bringing the little characters to life. Do join me on the next video where I'm going to be sharing card number 2, which looks a little bit like this. So we're using the moose. The moose is just the most adorable. So see me all over on the video for that one next. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Bye for now.